You're watching UATV English. My name is Anna Nichenko. Hello, and today I'm glad to introduce you my guest, Rostyslav Shurma, Deputy Head of the Office of the President of Ukraine. Hello and welcome.
Good afternoon.
The NATO summit is coming in Vilnius. We are on the eve of it, and there are lots of discussions today around it. Your opinion, what we should expect to see on this summit? What kind of results for us?
As a key economic advisor, I would like to focus perhaps on the business and economic aspect of the NATO for Ukraine, because perhaps this is the most crucial and the most important element of the Ukrainian recovery. Not the funds, not the support, but the security guarantees. If you will talk to any type of the business, global business, local business, small, medium, big corporates, so the main risk for them is the war risk, that their asset that they are investing in, they are operating, will be destroyed. Obviously, we, as the government team, we try to offer the products like the war risk insurance to tackle these issues. But unfortunately, it's not possible to offer these products in the scope of dozens and hundreds of billions of US dollars, which is the true potential of the Ukrainian economy. So we are able to implement it for hundreds, millions, maybe for $1 billion. But this, at some moment in time, it will really be the cap for the development of the economy of Ukraine. So the only real war risk guarantee for the business and for the real recovery, for the real development, is the NATO. This is the only possible war risk guarantee for our country that every investor will trust in.
Now we can see that lots of countries really help Ukraine, help a lot. But some of them say, we will help you to rebuild Ukraine after Ukraine's victory. What do you think about these? Some of them already help, but what do you think about these countries that want to just do it only after victory of Ukraine?
We should break all this process into stages. The first one is about the basic infrastructure and what we call the fast recovery. So in this area, like the schools, hospitals, kindergartens, bridges, roads, basic energy infrastructure, we cannot wait until the end of the war, because the people have to live and survive today. And that's why we are getting the support and we are starting the recovery now. As for the business projects, just coming back to my previous answer, it is really important to get the security guarantee that your investment, your asset will not be destroyed tomorrow. And the NATO is the only possible guarantee. The victory, the end of the war, and then the security guarantees. And here's it's absolutely clear and logical answer specifically from the business community. But what is truly important, that for any substantial project, you always have a lead time. What is lead time? To do the market research, to do the feasibility study, to put up the team together, to get the land allocations, to do the engineering, to do the approvals.
Great work.
This is a very big part of the work, very time-consuming part of the work, that for this medium-sized project can take up to a year, for a big project maybe even up to 2 years. But this is not really big in terms of the share of the all capex. That's why what we try to convince all our potential partners and corporates and investors, so start the first phase now, because you will cut this first 9 months, year for the preparatory phase, and you will not commit the high capital. And the risk of being destroyed of this asset is close to zero.
Ukrainian society, since the beginning of, especially since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, is really intolerant to corruption. What can you say about Ukrainian fight with this, with corruption?
The two biggest things that we need to achieve to get the substantial improvement in the quality of life in Ukraine is the accession to EU and accession to NATO. But it doesn't mean that we don't have to do our homework in terms of structural reforms. And the big part of those reforms are around the corruption elimination. You might already see that the anti-corruption bodies are quite efficiently working now in Ukraine, because all the recent cases that took place, just have a look in a couple of really high-level government officials, like the deputy minister of the regional development being seized at the bribe, the head of the regional parliament just a few days being detained for the bribe, the head of the Supreme Court has been as well detained on the bribe. I could hardly imagine that in any country the anti-corruption infrastructure would work so efficiently. But definitely this is not enough. What we need to do, we need to fundamentally eliminate the background for the corruption. How we can do this? The first one is deregulation. Because specifically, all these artificial regulatory barriers are often this fundamental background for the bureaucrats to ask for the bribes. The second one is the total digitization of the government processes. So non-businessman, non-citizen should have connection and contact with the government official. And this is the best proof and evidence that there won't be corruption. I think Ukraine is quite successful in introducing the digital services. Perhaps we are one of the global leaders now.
Absolutely.
With our DIA application and DIA web instrument. And the next phase might be about the cashless.
By the way, speaking about cashless, because in spite of the war, nevertheless, we think about initiatives, we think about life, we think about fighting with corruption, we think about improving our lives. Tell about this initiative, because it's really unexpected.
If you look how the corruption works, in 99.9%, it's being handled through the cash transactions. So one of the best ways to eliminate the corruption is to remove the cash. Moreover, the finance products and finance technologies, digital finance technologies have substantially advanced during the recent decade. And we have pretty good examples globally, like the country Sweden, who is not 100% cashless, but has done a tremendous move toward the cashless economy. And I believe with our experience in the digital government services, we have all the chances to become number one in the world and the first country in the world to introduce 100% cashless. And what is the really good proof of the viability of this idea is that our banking system and all the infrastructure, payment infrastructure, has survived not only the war, but these huge shellings of energy infrastructure, when basically a big part of the country was without the light and without the electricity, and still the banking system, all the payments, they all are working without any substantial shutdowns. So this is a very strong proof that it's all possible. And we believe that digitization, cashless economy, strong anti-corruption body, and deregulation, these are those pillars that will really help to almost completely, I hope 100%, but definitely almost completely eliminate all these corruption issues in Ukraine.
While we are working at new initiatives, what is going on now with the economy of Russia? 11th package of sanctions, Europe doesn't want to cooperate with Russia. What's with this?
Our partners are imposing quite substantial sanctions on Russia, but what we see, there are huge bypasses, and even the most critical components, even for the missiles, are being still supplied from our key partners like the United States, like the United Kingdom, and others, European Union to Russia. So what we should focus on the further increase of the sanction pressure, and specifically what is even more important, on the elimination of the bypasses that are being used to avoid the sanctions.
What do you think? Europe showed that it can live not bad without Russia, without cooperation with Russia. How do you think in future the situation will be the same? Europe won't come back to this cooperation after the war, maybe, for example?
If you look on the economic integration between EU and Russia, that was about two main pillars. The first one was about the energy resources, because Russia in total supplied up to 30% of the total energy mix to the European countries. And the second was the market. I think Ukraine is in the position that can offer basically the solutions for two of those issues and opportunities. If you look at the energy perspective, so Russia was supplying 150 billion cubic meters of natural gas, more than 150 million tons of oil, and 50 million tons of coal. So Europe needs to replace it somehow. And obviously Europe will not start to dig the coal in the middle of Germany. Europe, within the decarbonization and green transformation, wants the green energy, the green electricity instead of that. And this is the huge business opportunity for the Ukraine on the new energy map of the continent. Because we have immense opportunities to produce green electricity, to convert this green electricity to the green hydrogen, and to other energy-intensive products like the green fertilizers, green steel. So this is potentially close to 400 billion investment ticket in Ukraine to provide the energy security to the Europe. So this is one part. Another part is the market. The recovery project in Ukraine, it's a multi-hundreds billion project and the market for the European companies. And we do believe and we understand that Ukraine as the country, as the project, can offer both things that Russia was offering to the Europe before, energy security and the big market. And that's why we truly believe that there won't be the need of further reintegration of EU with Russia.
My last question, maybe it's a little bit general, maybe it's connected with economy, but on your opinion, what should the whole world do to make Russia not to repeat such kind of aggression, such kind of war? Maybe it's connected with peace formula, maybe peace formula Zelensky, maybe it's connected in economy.
I think it's about accountability. It has a couple of elements. The first one is the financial accountability. The Russia should pay in full the compensations and reparations for all the damages and all the disaster and all the tragedy done by Ukraine. The second is the legal and criminal responsibility of those people who were giving the orders, who were leading this war on the Russia side. And these two examples will be a very good story and example for any other country which will assume to do any kind of aggression, because the leader of this country will understand from the beginning that he'll have to pay with this, with all the assets of his country, and will have the huge personal criminal responsibility. And I believe it will eliminate any desire for any dictator to do any type of aggression in the future.
Thank you a lot. Thank you a lot for this interview. I remind to our viewers it was Rostyslav Shurma, Deputy Head of the Office of the President of Ukraine. Stay with UATV.